Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. I would like to first thank you and each one of you, everybody, for having joined us today on the pioneering of the future of sustainable travel. I have the great privilege to be the moderator in this conference. My name is Gonzalo Jimeno. I'm Ocean Sky's marketing director, and I have the great pleasure to welcome our fantastic speakers in this panel today. Just as a little heads up for all of you that are present here, we are streaming this conference live. We have roughly 100 people watching online right now. So hello to them. Thank you everybody from watching from a distance. They're watching from all over the world. And I do apologize in advance if we experiment any type of technical issues, that sometimes it happens. We hope they don't. Also, just as a little housekeeping rule, I would like to ask you to turn your phones off if you can. And just to let you know that all the speakers on the stage are fully vaccinated, and we have agreed, all of us, to do this conference without our masks. Also, we're going to have 4 speakers on the floor, and there's going to be 2 other speakers that are present remotely. You're going to see them on the screen on video. So there's 6 of us, and we also have the privilege to have some very special pre-recorded videos endorsing this conference as well. So without any further delay, I would like to welcome our guest speakers to step into the floor and join me. Guys, please take a seat. All right, so I would like to start this conference, the Revival of Airships, by introducing our different speakers and endorsers. We have a fantastic list of people that are willing to join us to discuss the future of sustainable travel. And I have the great honor to introduce a pre-recorded video from Bruce Dickinson. For those of you who don't know him, Bruce Dickinson is the lead singer of Iron Maiden. He's also a pilot and an aviation entrepreneur. So if you could please launch the video.
It's a billion-dollar, $50 billion industry today.
Yeah, no,
5
exactly.
years behind.
No, exactly. No, I mean, the eVTOL conference I was going to go to was cancelled last year, but it was basically they were meeting at the Walmart ranch. The guys that own Walmart, their own personal ranch, and they'd given the ranch over to this conference, and it was the great, the good, the Elon Musks, and everybody else were all going to turn up for like 2 days and do it, but because of COVID they had to move it. But it's going to happen again next year. If my diary is available, then that would be a very interesting one to go to, and yeah, and talk about airships. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway.
Well, so the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hello there, everybody in Dubai at this fantastic conference. And I'm Bruce Dickinson. I'm the lead singer of Iron Maiden. I fly airplanes a little bit as well. I've flown them around the globe. I've flown passengers in them. I've been a commercial pilot, all kinds of stuff like that. But my first love, years and years ago, was building a model of the R101 airship. And that led to a fascination and led to meeting one of the geniuses behind the whole revival of lighter than air technology, a guy called Roger Monk. And I was a seed investor in what is now the Airlander project, but it's not the only project in the sky trying to put lighter than aircraft back into the forefront of what is actually an amazing technology, whose time is really about to come again, because we have the technology, we have the materials, we have all the things that the great airship designers of the past never had. And of course, back in the day, if you wanted to cross the Atlantic by air reliably, safely, the airship was the only way to go. It was way faster than the ship. Airplanes were totally unreliable, etc., etc. But now we have an opportunity I say we because I'm going to be queuing up to get on board with all the rest of you. Now we have an opportunity to demonstrate exactly what an airship or even a hybrid air vehicle can do. And it can do more than a ship, more than a helicopter, more than an aircraft. It's different, and we think differently to those other modes of transport. So if you want to go to the North Pole, the airship is the way to go. I mean, you could hire a nuclear submarine and batter your way through a very heavy viscous medium in something costing hundreds of billions of dollars, and then smash your way through the ice in a very perilous escapade. Or you could sit floating on a cloud with your feet dangling in the sky, having a drink, watching the beautiful world go by beneath you, and leaving no trace, no pollution, no excessive noise, no runways, just part of this amazing planet. So that's not just a dream. That's a real aspiration and something that can really happen. And of course, we are, in a world where everybody's going on about zero carbon flight. There is no more carbon efficient vehicle than an airship. It's so obvious when you think about it. Why spend all that time and energy blasting something that doesn't belong in the sky there when you can build a vehicle which just floats? It's why would you build a submarine when you can build a boat? So that's from an engineering perspective. And the engineering is actually very sound and solid now because we have the materials, we have the technology, we have the weather forecasting ability, and we have the engines, and probably electric engines as well, which are going to drive this vehicle and this project forward. Anyway, I wrote a song about this. I mean, I wrote a song about the R101 airship, which sadly came to a fiery end. But the end of the song has a line that we may want to think about the human condition. And it says, "The dreamers may die, but the dreams will live on." And we are not the dead dreamers. We are the live dreamers. And this is a live dream, which I hope you will be able to make happen, because the time is now, never better. Anyway, I'll see you on board the first flight to the North Pole.
It's fantastic. Well, thank you, Bruce, from a distance. Now I have the great pleasure to introduce Alan Weston. Alan Weston is the CEO of LTA. He's based in the US. And I would like to ask you, Alan, at this point to introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about LTA.
Great. Are we going to show the charts?
Yes. Yeah. Do you mind? No. You can turn it on.
No, I mean the pictures.
Yeah.
Can you show the charts? There we go. Great. So, thank you. LTA is building electric airships for humanitarian relief. I'm very grateful and happy that I started this in 2013. And since 2014, my friend and colleague Eckhard Breuer and Zeppelin has been providing outstanding support to our engineering and operations, as well as providing critical parts to our project. So thank you, Eckhart. Thank you, Zeppelin. You guys are super. In addition, since 2015, I've been getting great support from my good friend Gennady Werber and his companies Roseros and Atlas, and a range of different things. And so we're very grateful, Gennady, to you and your team members. You guys are super also. When I look at LTA in terms of what we're doing and where we're going, What's important to me? What's important to us? I think two things. First of all, we are putting a lot of energy into new methods. And what's important about that? The two key elements I think are important are speed and scalability. I tell people all the time, faster, faster, faster. What do I mean? We're looking at ways, and we've achieved ways to improve the speed of design, of the manufacturing of all the parts, as well as the assembly. In addition to these methods, the other thing that we are bringing to bear for airships is improved capabilities. Speed, faster airships, airships that are lighter, that are stronger, that are safer, airships that are more efficient, and airships that are eventually completely carbon-free. Next chart, please. This is Pathfinder 1. This Pathfinder 1 picture was taken over a year ago. It's changed a lot. We will be revealing more about Pathfinder 1 in the near future, but we're getting very close to flight. Pathfinder 1 is 20 meters in diameter, 123 meters long, total volume of 30,000 cubic meters, and a range that is measured in thousands of nautical miles, not hundreds. Next chart. We're also working now in the air dock in Akron, Ohio. We are in the middle of working with the EPA to transfer title to LTA for the building. We have started building Pathfinder 3, the next airship, which is a lot bigger than Pathfinder 1. We've initiated manufacturing of that. I'm not going to talk too much about that today, other than say it's really big. We are going to have a press conference in Akron in December 15th, where we'll talk more about the details. And some of my colleagues here are going to be there. Pathfinder 3 and future airships are proving already that our methods are faster and they're scalable. That's important to me. In addition, we are proving that the part costs are going down dramatically, and that the schedule for assembly, we believe, will accelerate by over a factor of 10. We are looking at a family of airships, starting off at the Pathfinder 1 scale, that might ultimately go up to the biggest airship that you could build in the air dock, which would have a lift of, a capability rather, of over 200 tons. We're going to assess the market needs before we build such huge airships, but we are committed, at least right now, to building the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. Now I have the pleasure to introduce Gunari Verba. He's the CEO of Atlas, and he's based in Israel, but he has an extensive curriculum in building. He's already built several airships. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank organizers to invite us, because this is the very first conference when we can meet our colleagues and airship enthusiasts in person, rather than looking at the computers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ocean Sky. My name is Gennady Verba, and I represent Atlas LTA Advanced Technology. This is a company building aerostats, airships, and different kinds of LTA platforms. Can you please start slides? Over the 35 years of our experience, we built 12 airships, and right now we are busy modifying existing and proven models by introducing electrical propulsion. At the first stage, it will be hybrid electric propulsion with using a diesel engine as the main source of power. And in the nearest future, we are going to switch them to hydrogen fuel cells as the main source of power. We think it's a very key issue in getting zero emission in the nearest future. In general, I can tell you that airships are the perfect platforms to achieve zero emission, because it's much easier to accommodate environmentally safe sources of power on board of airships rather than any other aircrafts like airplanes, helicopters, or others. And this is in addition to the fact that was already mentioned, that airships themselves already very clean and very environmentally efficient and energy efficient aircrafts. Beside the sightseeing airships that you can see right now, we call this airship Atlas 11, capable to carry 19 people. We are working on our flagship project. Can you move forward? No, a little bit forward. Yes, this project called Atlant. This is so-called hybrid airship. I don't like the word hybrid regarding the airships, but it reflects the idea that part of the buoyancy, part of the takeoff weight covered by lighter than air gas, helium, and another part of weight will be taken by aerodynamic lift or propulsion, or vertical propulsion. So this aircraft, basically this is family of aircrafts with the payload of 18 tons, then 60 tons, and then hopefully the bigger ones are aimed to, as we call, deliver anything, anywhere. So we can carry very large or oversized cargos to, you can continue scrolling because I'm not giving any, any exact commands to switch the slides. So the very important feature of those airships, of Atlants, that Atlant can land practically anywhere, can land on any type of soil, can land on water, and catch the surface and be stable and safe on ground for a long time. That's very important for contemporary airships. And that's how we propose airships to carry on our rescue operation, deliver humanitarian help, food to remote areas, hard to reach areas, which without any existing transportation infrastructure. And I think that absence of infrastructure, no need for infrastructure, is the same important as be fuel efficient. I think we will discuss it a little bit more in details. And thank you for this opportunity to introduce ourselves.
Thank you very much. I would like now to present our next speaker. He has pre-recorded a video. He's based in Spain. His name is Carlos Díez de la Lastra. He's the CEO of Le Roche. Le Roche is a leading luxury hospitality school. The headquarters is in Switzerland, and they're super happy to endorse this project from a luxury tourism point of view. If you could launch the video, please.
Hello, my name is Carlos Díez de la Lastra, CEO of La Roche Marbella. We are one of the 3 more reputed schools in the world in training managers and leaders for the hospitality industry. And we are recognized in the industries because we are having a special training of the entrepreneurial and innovation spirit in our managers. I think with this little introduction, you can understand why I feel a special passion and admiration for this project of Ocean Sky Cruises. I think we will have a lot of projects with this type of innovation and capacity to generate new ways to understand and to give solutions for tourism. From Le Roche, due to our position that we have in the industry and the close relation with the industry, we have a privileged position to see how the industry tourism is evolving. And we can see how the sophistication in the industry is growing and how the demand is asking for more differentiation projects to satisfy the necessities of the more specialized and luxury tourism. It's clear for us that there is a polarization in the sector, and the industry is moving for 2 areas in the industry of tourism. One area is the most basic services that the technology is helping us to give it more efficiencies. And the other area is the luxury tourism. And this area is the most promising growing in the industry for the next years. In this area of the market is where ocean sky cruises can make the difference and offer a different product, a different service to the customer. These projects have several components that, in our opinion, give the project the opportunity to stand out of the market. It is innovative. It's a project that gives the tourists the opportunity to travel in another way and to even visit regions, areas of the world that they are difficult to visit without this type of project. It is sustainable, and now sustainability for the luxury tourism is something that the customer is asking for, and is practically a must in all the new projects for this type of customer. It is exclusive. And now luxury, more and more, is related with exclusivity of the experience. It's more than the type of facilities, more than the cost of the travel. The new luxury tourist is looking for something that is exclusive for them. And what is most impressive for me, and the reason because LaRose is happy to collaborate in this project, is because it is comprehensive. It's a project that has a combination of technology, and at the same time is have a very, very high level of hospitality. And in this area of hospitality is where LaRose is happy to give our knowledge, our experience, to support the project to take the standard of quality that the project needs. It is a really attractive project for technical perspective, innovation perspective, but at the same time, in our case, is the most important side for hospitality experience for the customer. We are happy, really happy to support the project and to collaborate to make this new and amazing project reality in the future. A pleasure to have the opportunity to share these minutes with you. I hope to see you soon. Best wishes from Marbella.
Right. So
Hello.
I'd like to thank Carlos from a distance. Now I have the pleasure to introduce Eckhard Breuer. He's the CEO of Zeppelin. Let me see if I can get this right. Zeppelin Luftschiff Technik.
And somebody switched up the microphone.
You need to switch it up. There you go.
So is it? Yeah, now the microphone is open. Yeah, thank you very much to Ocean Sky for giving me the opportunity to represent Zeppelin Luftschiff Technik here today in Dubai. I have to say I'm always amazed when I see these historic pictures of the LZ-127 Graf Zeppelin or the LZ-129 Hindenburg in the video shown here at the beginning of this event. And I'm amazed because we are actually the successors to these people who built these airships in the 1920s, 1930s. After the Hindenburg disaster in Lakehurst, 1937, there was a 60-year interruption in Friedrichshafen, Germany, about building airships, and the company has shifted to a new focus. They are now focused in the construction machinery industry, but there is still, in this 10,000 people industrial group, there are still designing, building, and operating airships. And this is our company, Zeppelin Luftschiff Technik. We have had, can we turn down the volume, please? So I just keep speaking while the pictures are running here. Since 1997, there is an airship flying again over Friedrichshafen and Europe named the Zeppelin NT. NT stands for New Technology, and this ship was designed as an airship for touristical sightseeing, for aerial advertising, and for special missions. And today, there is a fleet of 5 Zeppelin NTs in operation in the world, 5 airships. So it's a market niche, but actually these 5 airships, they are the only commercially certified airships currently flying in the world. Of these 5 airships, 3 are flying in the United States. They are the Goodyear blimp. They are the advertising icon of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company in the United States. They are owned and operated by Goodyear, and 2 Zeppelin NT airships are based in Germany, owned and operated by us, by Zeppelin. And one of them is showing the advertising for Goodyear. This is the airship that you see there in these images flying overhead London this summer. And the other airship has the branding of our other shareholder, ZF, a major automotive supplier, number 4 in the world, actually. So what are we using these airships for, and how can you characterize a flight on a Zeppelin NT? First of all, it's significantly smaller than the giants, the historic giants that you've seen in the initial video. This is a semi-rigid design for 14 passengers. And it's not capable of doing multi-day trips or transatlantic trips. It is designed to do day trips. We have demonstrated an endurance here of over 20 hours, but typically a flight on a Zeppelin NT can take up to 10 hours. And it can take up to 10 hours because this is a very efficient mode of travel. And my pre-speakers already mentioned it. Zeppelins are or airships in general are very fuel efficient means of flying because the lift is generated from the lifting gas, and you don't need to put in energy to keep it flying. It just flies because we're using the static lift principle. A Zeppelin NT, if you want to characterize the flying, it flies at low altitude, slow speeds, it's silent, and it's fuel efficient. We typically fly at altitudes around 300 meters. This is what you see there over London this year in June. We fly at slow speeds, so typically around 60 kilometers per hour, which gives our passengers a lot of time to watch what is going on the ground, and it's a perfect way to show a branding, to show advertising when you fly at slow speeds over cities. We can fly at 300 meters above major cities because we are quiet. The subjective noise impression that you have on the ground, it's around 62 to 65 decibel A, which is really, really quiet. And even though this is not a racehorse for long-range air transportation, this is something that we still need to design here together with our friend Alan in the United States. We're currently doing that. But you can really say that our company claim is true. We say Zeppelin NT, die schönste Art zu fliegen, the most beautiful way of flying.
Thank you very much, Eckhart. Now I have the pleasure to introduce our next speaker is sitting in South Africa right now. He's going to be connecting live. His name is Derek Joubert, and he's the CEO of Great Plains Conservation. Great Plains is a luxury safari operator grounded in conservation, and Derek is one of the leading voices in conservation in Africa. He's also won many awards and films for National Geographic as well. So if we could welcome Derek on the screen, please.
Well, hello everybody, and hello Dubai. Thank you very much for inviting me here. Unlike any of the other speakers today, I know absolutely nothing about airships, or skyships, but I do know a little bit about travel and adventure. As a National Geographic explorer, I've flown my own aeroplane over 6 continents, and every time I fly, I'm struck by the impact that I have, the influence that I have, a negative influence actually, in finding an airfield, landing there, and then making arrangements for a vehicle to get to me, and the sort of negative influences that I leave behind me as an explorer wherever I go. And within me is that yearning. The reason that I'm an explorer and the reason that we started our company, Great Plains, is because I believe that we all have the inner explorer. We all have that yearning to be Jules Verne and to float through the sky or go through a magical submarine, through the water with a magical submarine. And I think that what we are seeing here, and hopefully what we're going to be discussing, is that now is the moment for us to, with the new technology, to return to that era of romance. And to do it sustainably with a softer touch on the environment, and in fact, a softer touch on the cultures that we drop in on as well. Very often in tourism, for example, we want to bring people into an extreme place and visit gorillas or bonobos or the last migrations in the world, and we plow a road in there and put in a tarmac airfield. Imagine the way that we can do away with all of that by dropping in almost silently from the sky and traveling with meaning and with cause. And so I have great excitement about joining the panel, learning from you, and seeing how we can use this new technology based on old style travel to travel more meaningfully. I do want to say that as we've come out of this pandemic and the things that we've learned here, I hope that we don't just return to normal. Normal wasn't good enough for us. We need to decide a new normal, and we need to be reflective about that. And in many ways, what my company is doing, what I'm doing, is I'm renewing my vows with nature. And a softer way to travel is one way to do that. So I'm very delighted to be with you today, and back to you, and thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Derek. Derek will be staying online with us for the discussion panel we're going to have after the presentation. So he's not away, he's still there. I have the pleasure now to introduce Sébastien Bougon. He's the CEO of Flying Whales. It's one of the leading airship companies based in France as well. So thank you, Sébastien. If we could launch the video.
Okay, thank you very much. I do apologize, especially from our friends, not to be here with you. I couldn't make it. And just one comment, if possible. It's very hard to hear you from the floor. So if technical people can make it louder, it would be wonderful. The most interesting things about airship have already been said by Kert or Gennady or Alan. They have huge experience on that, so I wouldn't add anything. Just to, as an introduction, to say that I'm the chairman and founder of Flying Whales. At Flying Whales, we are developing a large capacity airship to make some transportation, not of people, but of goods. Any kind, like container, wind blades, woods, or whatever. And as all of you, we believe that it's time for airship to be back. You see, the way I see these things is that if we wanted to replace the plane, I mean, obviously the airship were too slow, so it's very logical that planes took place of the airship during the last century. But we are in a new area now that where we can, thanks to the technologies and the money, we can develop specific tools for specific applications. And I think it's what we're talking about here. We need to have some vehicles with a very low footprint and very low cost for several applications. So in our case, it's special transportation. In the case of others, it's tourism. But the main reason why it's the good time is it's not only because we have a highest conscious now of the importance of the environment, but also because we have the financing and technological means for this development. That's it. Thank you very much for inviting, and I'm very pleased to participate.
Thank you very much, Sébastien, for being here with us from the distance. I have the pleasure to present a pre-recorded video from Robert Swan. Robert Swan is a leading conservationist who has walked both to the North Pole and the South Pole, and he has a little message that he wanted to share with us today.
My name is Robert Swan, and I'm so proud to be an ambassador and an expedition leader for the OSC North Pole Airship Expedition. I have read so much about history. Personally, I made a small piece of history by becoming the first person to walk to the North Pole and the South Pole. But those stories of those first airships that went to the North Pole under Amundsen, Nobile on the Norge, unbelievable stories just captured my imagination. And I'm a firm believer that in order to visit some of these places, the last great wildernesses left on Earth, the North Pole and the South Pole, we need to have very, very little impact when we make those journeys. And I believe that good education about these last great wildernesses, what better place to do it than from an airship. And I really look forward to being a leader on this expedition to the North Pole. It's a dream I've held all my life. I started my dreams when I was 11, wanting to walk to both poles, and we made that happen. And I'm convinced that Carl and the team will actually make this happen. You know, I'm an expedition person, and if an expedition plan never develops, never moves forward, it never happens, I can guarantee you. But every time I receive information from the team, you're moving it forward, so congratulations on that. I'm also a huge believer in using renewable energy, testing out renewable energy. I'm on my way as I speak now to COP26, and my message is all about the preservation of Antarctica. In the year 2041, we're going to be deciding as a world to leave Antarctica alone as a natural reserve, land for science and peace, or could we be stupid enough to go and destroy it? The only way you make these things happen is to have great stories. And I know that OSC has a great story. Carl, you do such a good job in telling it, and well done to the team. And on my journeys recently to the South Geographic Pole, I've been testing out renewable energy. Think about this one. Jet aviation fuel powers jets, it obviously does, and it's a great fuel to use at -40 when you're walking to the South Pole. A couple of years ago, I threw out that fuel and took the risk of powering all of our water melting at -40. If you don't melt ice and snow and you've got stuff to drink, you're going to die in 5 days. So I relied 100% on solar. No one had ever done this. With NASA technology, we got these solar ice melters, and guess what? Filled them with ice and snow, even at -40, 6 to 8 hours later, hot water, game on. Absolutely incredible. So I'm a great believer in testing out renewable energy right on the edge of what's possible to achieve. And I'm just so inspired about the idea of going across the Arctic with no impact at all. I just love this idea. I think it's so important. I've used biofuels on my journeys, even used carbon pulled out of the atmosphere by a great company in Switzerland called Climeworks, and they made me jet fuel from the pollution that we put into the air. So in summary, what OSC and the North Pole Expedition is going to do, it's pioneering something. It's saying that tourism should have very little impact. It's all about education, inspiration. It's giving people hope, especially young people. Young people today have every right to feel upset about the state of the planet that my generation have left them. What we must do is to inspire them towards solutions. We haven't got time to be angry for 10, 15 years. We're running out of time. So I see the OSC North Pole Expedition as being extremely hopeful. Please support them. I'm right behind you. Good luck to you all. Rob Swan, message ends.
Well, thank you very much, Robert, from a distance. And now our last speaker, our CEO, Karl-Oskar Lewacek. And I think you might have a few things to say today.
Yes. So my name is Karl-Oskar Lewacek. I'm the founder and CEO of Ocean Sky Cruises. So I'm a commercial pilot. I've worked as that for 17 years. I'm also a logistical transportation economist, and that's basically where I started. This is what came. This is the reason why I why I ended up looking at airships about 14 years ago. Where we are today is Ocean Sky Cruises, or Ocean Sky Aviation, which will be an airline of airships, is something that came out of that background. We understood that in order to move forward, humanity move forward, we need a sustainable airline. We will travel, we will transport in the future as well, but we need another solution. We need a fossil-independent solution. We want to do that with true sustainability. And I have to use the word true, because a lot of people are using the word sustainable in a without maybe thinking about what the word actually means. Sustainability means that you can do something in eternity without depleting the resources for anyone else coming behind you. And the only way we can see that happen in aviation today, I'm not saying forever, but today and probably decades to come, the only solution that we see is airships. Because maybe with very short-range aviation, we can do that with electrical vehicles and electrical airplanes. But when we're talking mid-range and long-range travel, the only actual proven technology that has ever done that is airships. And it's all about energy. Energy consumption is a road to sustainability. Zero emission is very important, and it's a great thing, but energy consumption is much more important. Every time we can preserve energy, we reduce our fossil footprint in the world. We use about 50% of all the energy produced in the world is fossil today. This will change. It will change through political mechanisms. It will change through consumer behavior. It will change through many years, the coming 10 years, definitely. Because the world is definitely needing a change, as you so well know, probably. When we preserve energy, we are removing the last kilowatt hour produced in the energy production, in the global energy production. That last kilowatt hour is always fossil fuel. I'm not going to go into too much depth here, but preserving energy is the route to sustainability. I'm super excited of what's happening in the airship world, what these guys are doing. What we're trying to do is contribute to that piece, bring in a piece of the puzzle. And the piece of the puzzle that we want to bring is to scale the industry, to scale the technology into an industry. In order to scale something, whatever it is, we cannot do that with charity. I mean, I'm a firm believer that we need profitability, entrepreneurship, and business in order to scale something. And we need to scale it fast. The world is in dire need of a transportation system in the air that can cross seas and land. If you think about it, all other transportation modes are either sea-based or land-based. Airships or airplanes or helicopters, for that sake, is both. So in order to scale that industry, we need profitability. We need a business model that can stand on its own 2 feet without support from governments, without support from charity, without support from anything else but the entrepreneurial or business model itself. Our route to the North Pole is to build that industry. It's just a start. It's a historic thing when we actually do it. When we land an airship on the North Pole, that will bring the attention to the world, sorry. That will bring the attention of the world that what airships are capable of. That's a very small step to build an industry, but it's a first step. And every industry starts with the first step. I hope today that you can get a picture of why we're gathering all these different individuals that has really created something. I mean, the airship industry represented here, Derek Hubert with his conservation, how do they all fit together? And Robert Swan with his conservation and his passion to shepherd the planet, how does that fit together? Well, we believe that in order to start this industry, to ignite this industry, and to support that business model, to scale that into an industry step by step, we're not being disillusional here that we can do this overnight. We have to do it in steps, and we have to learn from each step, and then in order to take the next step and broaden and penetrate new markets and make the technology affordable. But how it all comes together is by experiential travel. That's what we believe. That's igniting the industry. And we need people like Derek and Robert to show us the way to take that responsibility, not just to revolutionize or disrupt aviation. They need to show us the way how to actually take real responsibility because of another point. Airships, and I mean, when I talk about airships, I mean large-scale airships that can go basically anywhere in the world, like they actually did in the 1920s and 30s. When we can land anywhere, I mean basically anywhere there's an open field, there's a huge responsibility that comes with that. You can't have humanity and take them to the most pristine nature in the world and not taking any responsibility for the people taking care of that place. So we take it very seriously that airships opens up the corners of the world, and we need to really make sure that we educate and we make sure that opening up the corners of the world, all the pristine nature and wildlife and wilderness that's out there, which is probably more than 90% of the world that's not urbanized or developed, that we take care of that as well. And we don't ruin it. Because as you probably, most of you can agree with me, that most things that humanity does, they kind of ruin. Like as soon as they get their hands in something, it kind of ruins the whole thing. I hope the world is shifting towards a more responsible place now. And we're trying to contribute to that. And I think that's enough of introduction.
I was coughing to try to make you see. No, thank you, Carl, for the intervention. So, thank you everybody for your presentations, and thank you for having brought so much visual material. I think it's very important in illustrating. May we have Sébastien and Derek on the screen, if possible? So we're finished with presentations. Now you know who everybody is and what they do. But I would like to do a little preempt before we start the conversation. There's a bit of an echo somewhere. Sébastien, can you hear us well this time? Is it better?
Yeah, it's much better. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll start by just setting the tone a little bit. Transportation accounts for about 10% of carbon emissions in the planet. Tourism accounts for about the same amount, right? That's a lot of carbon emissions that we can influence on and target. We have created a wonderful way of travel over the past 100 years, which is fast and efficient. But at what cost? We fly on airplanes. We want to get to places direct and as fast as possible. We have even created an airline industry that is bringing costs down by the day. We have low-cost airlines, so travel is becoming more and more and more accessible for everybody in the planet and for all types of pockets as well. Just to give you a figure, the United Nations World Travel Organization said that in 1950, there were 25 million travelers across the globe. By today, there's 1.4 billion travelers. So scale that up. Transportation and tourism account for almost 20% of all carbon emissions on Earth. And we need to do something about this. We have a tourism business model that is based on volume, and it's concentrated in very, very specific regions. So if you think of what do we do with 1.4 billion people, they move in very concentrated regions, whereas there's other regions on Earth that are totally isolated still. And Derek will know about that quite a bit. When we move 1.4 billion people, we need to create inevitably infrastructure, roads, airports, hotels, and services. And that has another impact on sustainability that we're not accounting for on the carbon emission side. So infrastructure plays a huge role on the impact our transportation and tourism industry has. So this significant effect is not only on the environment, it's also on the resources. And we usually forget on this equation the local cultures, what it does to local cultures. You will see Starbucks and Zara stores popping up everywhere. Is that a good thing or not? We're not here to decide, but it's just a fact, right? So what does it do to authenticity and local cultures? The massification of tourism. There's a growing demand. The tourism market is a monster. It's always demanding for new products, new destinations, and exclusivity. And the more countries and developing countries access this market through innovative technology, more efficient means of transportation, we are expanding this mass-built model in the same business way. We're not thinking differently. We're just exporting our business as usual thinking across the world. Of course, we're not using as much plastic. We're trying to make an effort, but is that really where the change is going to be coming from? E-commerce, especially with the pandemic, has boosted to levels that have never seen before, and that has put so much pressure on supply chains, and we're witnessing it, how difficult it is to get a dishwasher these days. It's very difficult to find stuff. So logistics and transportation and cargo are going to play a huge role in a growing, the demand never stops growing for manufactured goods, right? Again, that puts a lot of pressure on infrastructure. You need to build a road, a port, a ship, a road, and a warehouse. Whereas we think that airships can play a significant role on how to address that issue. Climate change is another growing pressure. We are seeing worldwide how changing weather patterns is putting a lot of pressure on natural disasters. So there's an emergency on how do we address all these remote areas of the planet for rescue and relief. We have seen from Gunari a flying hospital, literally, it's a flying hospital. I mean, can we really think differently? Can we provide with different solutions to address these problems? So sometimes we always look to the future. The past might offer some insight. So 100 years ago, airships were the leading technology of the past. They would deliver solutions that were not possible with the current technology at the time. That knowledge has disappeared. So can we really bring this knowledge from the past into the future with our current technology? These large-scale airships in the past were also great sources of pride for countries that would build them. They would become engineering marvels that would export knowledge and countries' pride. Can we really have pride on values, on sustainability, on new technologies? So in this conference, we have gathered the leading players in conservation, sustainability, and the lighter-than-air, the LTA technology around the table. It is the first time so many experts sit together to address these issues that I just mentioned. So now I will open the floor, and we will have a very open conversation. So Sebastian and Derek, I will be looking at the screen. If you want to speak, just raise your hand. I'll be giving each one of you your turn. So my question for all of you is, why airships? Alan?
I work out... I work out of Moffett Field in California, as well as in Akron. And we work right next to the California Air National Guard. And we are very close and friendly with the wing there. They operate with helicopters and C-130s to do search and rescue. And now for 5 years, the wing has reached out to us because airships fill a gap. Helicopters are super, but they're crazy expensive and they can't fly very long. C-130s are great, but they're really fast. They're too fast, and they can't loiter. They can't stop. Airships can fly a lot longer, and they can just stop in the air and search. In addition, when we look at disaster relief, say in the Caribbean after a hurricane, we see situations like after Dorian, where a lot of the air methods, airfields are destroyed, and so you have to rely upon ships to bring in things, and ships move very slowly. Airships can move a lot faster and provide a lot more capability, and that's really a big driver. The other big driver in my life looking at airships, it's been brought up before. Since about 2000, there's been a strong interest in the Department of Defense in airships based on efficiency and the fact that you use a lot less energy, and this has been brought up before.
Let me add something to this. You're painting a big picture here of how airships could really revolutionize air travel. And what I think what we need to do is clearly define and manage the expectations here. What is realistic in the next 5 to 10 years, and what is too much that we want to achieve here. I really like your idea of experiential travel, like kind of experience things, to go on expedition style trips. And this is something that today is possible with the Zeppelin NT, for example, that is flying today. We try to give this wonderful experience of nature, of a wonderful landscape, or seeing a city from above to our guests. However, what is available today, what is certified today, what is flying today, is not suited for long-range trips like we've seen it in the 1920s and 1930s. In the end, it was a period of 6 years, 1931 through 1937, that we saw airships in transatlantic travel. Then they were twice as fast as the fastest ocean liners. After World War II, we've seen the acceleration in aeroplanes over the Atlantic, and they just won the skies then. Now, we clearly have to define what can we expect from airships, and I think that is a fantastic way of flying with a low environmental footprint. Will it be, or can it be, absolutely emission-free in the near future? That's going to be difficult. That's going to be difficult to make it 100% efficient-free, but still it has a low footprint. It's using very little energy to push the ship forward, and the noise emissions are very little. But the two key questions that we need to answer in the end in order to make it a successful business case, if we want to have more modern, more powerful, more capable airships, first of all, how much money will it take you to develop and to certify these airships? And will the market be big enough in order to amortize these investments you put in upfront? And the second question is, and this is what we see in Friedrichshafen in our daily business, in a daily flight schedule, how reliable can your schedule be in order for your flying operation? How can you guarantee your guests that they will fly on a certain day? And I'm pretty certain that I will land in Frankfurt tomorrow morning, but I cannot promise my passengers that bought a Zeppelin ticket for tomorrow that I can fly them tomorrow, because we are flying at low altitudes, we're flying in the weather, and you're very much weather dependent. So these are the two questions: what does it cost you to develop and certify and bring it to the market? And secondly, how reliable in terms of schedule is your operation?
Okay, I agree with my colleagues, and I would say it a slightly different way, that probably airships, they should not replace any other means of transport. They should not push any other transportation technology out of business. They should, at the first stage, it's my deep belief, they should take the open niches on the market. And I think that experiential travel that we are discussing here in Ocean Sky is one of the leading promoter of this idea. I think the experiential travel is the best example of that, of the niche use of transportation. But in the future, I think this niche will grow and eventually it will take some place that right now occupied by different means of transport. For instance, we are talking only about, when we are talking about the sustainability, we are talking about energy consumption, about fuel, about carbon footprint. But I'd like to stress, and I agree with you, that the infrastructure, transportation infrastructure has much bigger environmental impact than only carbon footprint. The transportation infrastructure, when you build it, also has huge carbon footprint, and also whatever you name it, all kind of resources. And eventually, people can build airplanes that will burn hydrogen, will have zero emission. But this airplane should land on the huge runway, which probably required 1 million ton of concrete. Somebody should bring this 1 million ton of concrete. And I'm sure that people that trying to preserve African nature or whenever else will not be happy if someone will bring 1 million ton of concrete to some beautiful places. That's why we should concentrate our attention on the technology that give us a freedom from this infrastructure. And of course, we cannot build any runways and airports on the North Pole. That's a good example of this mission. We need to think about something different, about the technology that gives us freedom to land anywhere. And when Alan mentioned that you have to survey some people that suffering on the sea, but it would be absolutely the best to land next to them and save them, not only detect the place where they are, but this is also very important. So the idea about infrastructure may be the same important as the energy aspects of this type of transport. Thank you.
Thank you, Gennady. Derek, I saw you made a comment on the chat. Would you like to say something?
No, it's fine, but I'll jump in here. I think that everything that everybody said is absolutely right. But the way that we're going to get more people around us to save the planet is not by taking stuff away from them. So you're absolutely right by saying we will always have aeroplanes. This should not be an attempt to replace aeroplanes. But the way to move forward is to add something that's better. One of the things that we forget about as we look at the use of fossil fuels, the use of carbon, and reducing both of those, is that there are major players within that, and that's biodiversity. So there was a recent study that looked at 2 pieces of rainforest in Africa. One was pristine forest and the other one had elephants in it. And you would intuitively think that the elephants would be knocking down trees and therefore it wouldn't be as good for the carbon sequestration or the carbon absorption. But in actual fact, the piece of forest that had elephants in it was actually absorbing carbon at about 14% higher than that didn't have any biomass in it. And the protection of biomass nowadays comes largely from tourism. And so the naive look at tourism and travel would be to say, to save the planet, we should have less travel, therefore less tourism. And that's exactly the wrong answer. We need to have good, meaningful tourism, and we need to not be saying to the world, you cannot travel, you cannot do these various things. We just need to create more user-friendly to the planet alternatives. And that's what's so exciting about the airships.
Thank you, Derek. Sebastian, you raised your hand before.
Yeah, I just would like to add something about what Eckert said, because it is definitely true, but I think we must go deeper on that. The important point is, after all we said, about airship that are absolutely fantastic and so on. The real question is, how do we make it happen? Because it's not a new idea, definitely not a new idea. I mean, it means dozens and dozens of years that there have been several projects. And still, I mean, except Zeppelin, we don't have any players. So the real point is why these are not emerging. And I'm really in the middle of this, and I'm sure Gennady is in the middle of this. Alan has a very good shoulder, so maybe something different, more focus on technology. But the point is, how will we convince the community of financiers to put money on the table to develop these technologies? And the reason why they didn't come before is because we were not honest enough. I definitely believe that. I've been through a lot of projects, I mean, studying previous projects, and we're not honest about it. Eckhart mentioned, how much does it cost? We have to say it. It does cost. If you want to make an airship for tourism, for instance, it does cost minimum of 100 to 200 million euros. And I'm sure that that's what Zeppelin spent to develop the NT07. If you wanted to develop a large capacity airship for cargo, it's $500 million. And you have to say that. So first of all, we have to be honest that it's a lot of money. And if we want to convince the provider of money, again, we have to be very precise. Being precise is to be honest about the weather conditions. I mean, Eckhart said very well. I mean, we must tell the truth about that. That's what I'm saying every day to my customer. I mean, I'm not any weather or every weather condition for operation. That's not true. By something like 100 days per year, or maybe 120 days per year, it will stay at base. Okay, let's take another example. We're talking about sustainability and no emission. The truth is that the Airworthiness Authority is not ready for fuel cells. Even if our large capacity airship can carry a lot, I mean, batteries are too heavy. So if the LCS 60 ton from Flying Wells want to be certified on time, we have to go through turbines from Pratt & Whitney, and then we consume fuels. And as we need to face huge winds, we need to have 4 megawatts on board. And 4 megawatts on board is a crazy helicopter. So back to that, we have to say the truth. Step number one, yes, we will use some fuel. And then step number two, we will go to hydrogen. So all I'm saying here is to say that we need now in that kind of conventions or show that we organize, we must be much more precise about what we're doing, about the several projects and how we manage to make it happen, and explaining and be more precise on the project, the operation, the business model, and being that honest, then the community will say, okay, this is no more crazy things, and something is going to happen. It's obviously not going to replace transportation. I mean, do not believe that the Chinese will visit Paris, avoiding planes and spending a week or two in an airship. I mean, that's true. Even all of us, if we want to bring our wife or our girlfriend to Venice for a weekend, we will not spend a few days in an airship. So we have to be very honest about what we can do with this solution. And it's going to be a niche. Then 10, 20 or 30 years later, this niche is going to be wider and wider. And then we will change the world. So sorry for not being the funny guy, but I'm in the middle of this. And I think it's very important. And this is the only way you can raise the money.
Thank you, Sebastian, for putting the hard questions on the table. And this is what we're here to discuss. I think these are precisely one of the challenges that we have ahead is to answer those questions. And there's multiple questions. So based on everything that everybody has said, and Carl Oscar, I mean, I can, if you want to intervene, we're revolving around, like Alan mentioned the word efficiency many times. So I think that, you know, energy consumption is linked to the efficiency debate. Eckert and Gennady mentioned a lot investment, certification, and especially Gennady said something that is to fill the niches here. We're not here to take our girlfriends to Venice on airplanes or airships, or wives. I think we're here to find a solution on how do we fill a niche. And Ocean Sky is here as an operator where we believe, and this is what Derek pointed out, that luxury tourism can be the spark, the ignition to what Sebastian you were pointing to. This is a long road ahead of us, and we want to build it together. So maybe you want to comment something around that, Carl?
Yeah. So these are good questions put on the table here. And let's do some first principle thinking. First principle thinking is what really matters. If you can do a work less energy consuming than in another way, for me, in a world, in a sensible world, where we actually care about our footprint or about the environment, etc., that's a no-brainer. You should do it with the less of energy. This is what drives the fundamental thought of using another transportation device. Obviously, that doesn't mean that it will, kill every other device. No, or any other transportation mode. This will go through development cycles. We're breaking into the market. I mean, in our vision, we're breaking into the market through experiential travel. But it's just a first step. Then we'll see. If we can build, and I absolutely believe we can, if they could build airships that flew around the world in 1929 using cotton as the skin of the airship, using cow intestines for the gas bag of helium, I think we can build airships today. Now, like you both said, Sebastian and Eckhard, it's a matter of a business model. It's a matter of finances, because nothing comes, no industry, no technology can rise without the right financial mechanisms. And that's also another reason why we're starting in experiential travel, because that can give us that investment rationale. So basically, airships make sense, and for me, the world doesn't make sense today. The world is, we're using fossil fuels like we never done before, 100 barrels a day, 100 million barrels a day. This will change. We have just seen the beginning. In 10 years from now, we'll sit here and it'll be a new world. Because we're phasing it out. It's going to happen one way or another. I mean, I cannot say if it's going to be 10 years or if it's going to be 50 years. I honestly, obviously don't believe that we're phasing out fossil fuels in 10 years. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we're beginning. In 10 years, it might be very, very precious resource. And this change is changing the economics. It's changing the game. And in that future, there will be winners and losers. And winners in a changed world, not today, in a changed world where energy is very, very precious, that the winners are the ones that consume less energy. If we're talking about today, then the economics of airships doesn't really make sense. It's a very niche product. If we're talking about the future, in another world where other financial mechanisms are working, then airships makes a lot of sense. If we also then consider that in each development cycle, we will learn, we will tweak, we will excel the technology, we will fix. Mankind is really, really good at fixing problems, but we have to see them. We're really bad at envisioning problems. Like, what can happen if we build an airship? Oh, maybe we should, do this instead of it's really, really hard to figure out the unknowns unknown. And but by building the first airships, we will see what the problems are, and we will fix them. I absolutely am 100% sure. How fast that development goes, I have no idea, actually. I hope it will go fast because the world really needs it. But it's really connected to how fast the surrounding world is moving away from fossil, away from putting carbon taxes on fossil, etc., and making energy more expensive.
I would like to get back to what Sébastien Bougon said before. I think we need to clearly define what do we want to use airships for. And Sébastien said you're not going to use an airship to fly to Nice for a weekend and then back to where you come from. When the airships had their golden age, these 6 years between 1931 and 1937, they were twice as fast as the fastest ocean liners, and the aeroplanes did not have the range yet to cross the Atlantic. And that was their sweet spot. That's why, and in the end, it was 2 airships. It was Graf Zeppelin and Hindenburg. It was 2 airships who did this for 6 years. Today, even modern airships, they cruise at speeds of around 100 kilometers, give or take, more or less, which is 1/8 or 1/9 of the speed that airliners fly at. So using airships as a means to get from A to B, I simply don't see it because of the speed, because of the slow speed. But what I do see airships for is they are a low environmental footprint observation platform. That is doable with today's technology. What is flying up there? You can do short-range observation flights, sightseeing flights, to look at a great city or to look at a nice landscape around the Bodensee. But getting quickly from A to B, I don't see it. Believing in airships for experiential travel, to visit some great wilderness spots or to go to the North Pole or whatever, I clearly see it for that. To use it for applications like Alan said, for like reconnaissance, search and rescue, where you need to loiter in the air for a long period. I see them as a long endurance platform, seeing them as a long range platform to get from A to B, simply off the speed. I don't see that.
Carl, you want to take that one?
Just want to reply to that. So yeah, we're looking into the crystal ball here a little bit. What I want to put into contribute to the discussion is airships have something unique. They have space. They have a spacious environment for passengers, and that's because of the characteristics of airships. They're weight limited. Airplanes are space limited. That means that there's an alternative cost to give each passenger a spacious cabin, for example, in an airplane. Airships have the opposite. You can't put on more passengers because they're weight limited, but you can offer them a space. That means that the alternative cost is not there. And I'm starting from economics because that's how the world works. If we can offer each passenger a more spacious and comfort environment, I think actually, Eckhard, that we can offer another type of travel. We don't have to fly 1,000 kilometers an hour. Actually, I think that energy consumption of flying that fast and that high with 300 tons of aircraft, we will move away from that. I honestly believe that. But I also admit that this is, a vision. It's not something I can say, I have some data for. It's something I can say that if we can do that to a fraction of the footprint, and we can do it in comfort, so you can actually close the door and go to sleep, get up in the morning, take a shower on board of your airship, and maybe you have an overnight flight, so you actually board the airship in the evening, and you wake up in the morning at your destination. It's another way of traveling, absolutely. We can't just compare it with airplanes. I think a lot of times we do compare airplanes and airships, and I think it's a little bit unfair, because airships are very slow. Nobody says anything differently. But why should we compare it with airplanes? We have boats, we have trains. Maybe in the future, I think that trains will be take a lot of market from the airplanes because of the energy, the cost of energy to transport yourself with an airplane. With an airplane is 10, 20, 30 times more. Can the world afford that? That's the question on the table. Can the world afford to spend energy to go to Venice with your wife? I don't think so. I mean, if you can pay for it, you know, but I think it has to be very expensive to do that Venice trip on an airplane. And I think the world is moving towards that. But again, this is a changed world. It's not today. It's in 10, 15 years when we have carbon tax. Hopefully, I hope we will have a carbon tax.
I don't know if anybody wants to continue down this conversation. I have a general question, and I'm thinking a lot of Derek. So we're pointing out that, you know, we're trying to bring in a new set of values into travel. Slow could be a value, sustainability, definitely. We've discussed that in the many different applications possible. But sustainability definitely will come at a cost. The question is, what is the cost? How much are people willing to pay for that, right? So Great Plains Conservation, and Derek, I'm going to, if you allow me, I'm going to drag you into this conversation, has developed a business model that is rooted in that, and they have a cost for it, and there's a market, and it's a very successful business, by the way. So maybe, Derek, you would like to comment something on the cost of sustainability, because ultimately we're discussing values and economics here.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it sort of relates to what Carl was saying earlier on. And I just made a few notes here. The first is, I think that we would be making a mistake if we think that we can attract people to this particular mode of transport based on sustainability, how good it is for the planet, the reduction in fossil fuels, all of that sort of stuff. Most people don't really care. And people are not going to buy into this kind of travel because they think it's a good thing for the planet. So I think that the very top line of what this is all about is that experience. And the truth is, I don't know what the cost is, but instead of looking at it as jumping onto an airship and going to Venice with your girlfriend or girlfriends or wives, and having Venice as the destination, the entire experience starts when you leave London or Berlin, and then you go to Venice via there. And very often we've got a term within Great Plains, which is the path to happiness. So, and the obstacles to happiness. So we very often find people arrive in any one of our safari destinations and they are shattered. For the next 2 or 3 days, they need to recover. Because they left Los Angeles, they flew to New York, they then probably flew via Dubai, and then they came here, wherever it is, having multiple PCR tests and, you know, just the grind of travel. And then they finally get to us, and we have to pamper them for 2 days before they're really functional again, before they can start their happiness. Whereas I think that while I don't ever envisage one of these airships coming out of Los Angeles, but turning the journey itself into the experience rather than just the destination would be something we should look into. The other thing about that is this is high touch, and in many ways air travel now has become commoditized, and it's not high touch. Many of us get very, very irritated by sitting in a cramped seat for many, many hours. That's not high touch, and yet when you come into Great Plains, that's when the high touch begins. And so I would see this as an added-on experience to what we would offer within Great Plains. And just one more example, if you will allow me. And why I'm confident about this argument. you can see the wildebeest migration in the Masai Mara. And you can arrive, you can pay $100 a night at some place, and you can line up with a whole lot of minibuses, and you can see wildebeest jumping in and getting eaten by crocodiles. Or you can come to one of our camps and pay $3,000 or $4,000 a night. Go out in a beautiful vehicle, park a little bit away from the minibuses, or maybe find your own crossing, see a fantastic thing on your own. And it's a private and exclusive experience. And we're full. People are far more willing to pay $3,000 or $4,000 per person per night than $100 a night for a commoditized experience. And that's that Great Plains experience that you're talking about, I think.
Thank you, Derek. I would like to ask one last question. We have about, hold on. We have about 25 minutes left. I would like to ask you guys, let's think ahead. I mean, we are discussing current challenges, and it is our job as experts to solve them together. That's why we're sitting here together. And Sebastian made some very, very valid questions. He put them on the floor. And I think we can all agree on the questions, actually. But where do you see airships in 10 years? There's a very strong agenda, especially after Glasgow. By 2030, 2035, possibly certain continents, not countries, will stop building fossil fuel engines for cars, right? I think that is, whether that happens or not at a faster pace or not, it sends a very, very strong signal. And I think that we are already on the path to something with airships. So the question is, what do you guys see from your own perspective, your own company values and vision, airships in 10 years, by 2030, let's say?
I'd like to kick this question off. I've been fascinated since starting this adventure about the size of airships, both looking in the past as well as looking in the future. And every day I go to work, it really frightens and excites me that we're building the biggest thing that's going to fly very soon. It's bigger than any rocket, bigger than any airplane in the world today. And the one that we're building in Ohio is even much bigger. It struck me from the beginning that even building one airship is an extreme challenge. And so our team has focused from the get-go on mass production of parts and mass production of assemblies. Because of that, from the beginning, we have laid the foundation for producing a very large number of airships very quickly. And even though COVID and supply chain issues have slowed down our first one considerably, we are seeing our ability to make a very large number of airships. Indeed, we have purchased the means of production to make the essential elements of an airship every month. I believe that's possible. So as long as there is the appetite beyond disaster relief and search and rescue, if there is an appetite for other applications that include telecom, cargo, personal transportation, other applications, I see LTA in 10 years building over 100 airships.
All right, who would like to go next? Eckhart.
Well, I think I already expressed my position. I see them as a perfect means of long endurance, loitering type of missions as an observation platform. Simply because of the speed, I don't see them as a means to get quickly from A to B. And I think we all came here to Dubai on airplanes. And I still believe, even though the carbon discussion is going up, I see the discussion more going to biofuels for commercial airliners. And I simply because of the speed, I don't see airships as going quickly from A to B, but it's a perfect observation platform. And I see that there is new developments going on with Alan's company, with Sebastian's company. I'll be very excited to see these things coming to the market. And in the end, it will be very interesting to see how many of these airships the market is ready to absorb and ready to employ them.
10 years. So obviously, let's be clear on what's the challenge. The challenge is to get the first large-scale airship up in the air, certified, ready to go, and also commercial success and operational success, obviously. Has to be super safe, but that's in the regulations already with the certification of EASA, FAA, you name it. The first airship is the challenge. What follows after that is capitalism, making an industry. If the airship is not proficient, if it doesn't work the way we hoped it to work, it will be very slow. The development of airships will be very, very slow. If we don't make any money, we're not going to get further investments. The industry is not going to get further investments in the pace that we hope for. If it is successful and we land on the North Pole with a large-scale airship, we prove something. We prove a technology, and let's say it works to our expectations. And we make, the profits that according to expectations. Then the development will be extreme. Look at the eVTOL industry today. It's valued at probably 50, 60, 80 billion dollars. Have anyone seen an eVTOL yet? No? There is none. It's what the market expects, what the eVTOL will do for mobility. So, and I always say, we're 5 years behind eVTOL. This industry is very small today. Although we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars going into this industry of building lighter-than-air technology vehicles, it's still very small. In 5 years, I think we are tens of billions of an industry, which means that investments are flowing in. That means that if we prove operational proficiency and commercial proficiency, which basically means the outlook of making money, capitalism will make its wonder. That's what capitalism does. It excels and produces technology that is commercially viable. Where that ends up, so if everything goes well, I think we will have more than 100 airships in 10 years. If we are not able to supply an airship that is according to expectations, that might take 15 years then, because we have to tweak, we have to recertify, etc. So 100 airships in 10 years, doing cargo, doing experiential travel. I don't think passenger transport might not have been achieved in 10 years, but I hope so.
So it looks like we have an agreement on the 100.
Yes, I'm not sure about 100 or 200s. I like 200s more, but I don't know. Certainly airships are big and they are expensive so far. And that's why we need 100, because we have a certain learning curve. We need to build more of them to make them less expensive. And this is the key issue for investors and the key issue for opening of new markets. Like right now, it's experiential travel for rich people. Tomorrow, if we manage to make it more affordable, it will be more and more popular, and then we need maybe not 2 airships, but we need 10. If we make it even more affordable, we probably need 100. The same story we have in cargo transportation. Right now, we are looking for niche business cases, like World Food Program delivery of food to the middle of Africa, some other unique operations. We are looking for such cases. If we produce 20, 30, 100 airships, then we can achieve the much lower cost per ton kilometer. And after that, we can enter different markets. So that's quite simple. Thank you.
All right, so you're not in the 100s yet.
I'm for 200.
200. Great. So we're at 400 already. We're building up the market, you see? 400 airships. Sebastian, please.
Yeah, just one word, because I was the bad news guy a few minutes ago. I would like to be the good news guy now. And to be honest, I'm very, very optimistic. You're talking about 10 years. I mean, we shouldn't talk it that has something like a dream. I mean, it is definitely happening actually on our side. And I can see how Holland is making some huge progress, or even hybrid air vehicle and so on. So the good question is, what is it going to be in 50 years? Because in 10 years, you will see some of our actually large capacity airship unlocking freight in highlands in Indonesia, reconnecting the First Nation in north of Canada, unloading some woods in the region of Lyon in France. I mean, we already have signed more than 20 contracts with industries. The factory is on track to build airships in the region of Bordeaux, and it's going to be delivered in 25 in Montreal with our in Quebec. So on large capacity airship business, from our side, it is definitely happening, and you will definitely have these operating. And in the meantime, you will have, sorry for that, in the meantime, you will have more and more, let's say, smaller airship dedicated to tourism that will be developed. And as soon as it's going to be developed, I'm sure the shareholders of Zeppelin will put to account a lot of money, because they have the hugest experience to develop new categories of airships. So from my perspective, this is no more questions. We are living it. It's happening. And the good question is, what about next step? How do we make it happen to have not only 1, 2, or 3 players, but 10 players? How do we develop the tourism, and how we develop most important technologies, because we still have some issues regarding technologies. I mean, it's the requirements from the certification authority force us to make our engineering much more complex than just using the technologies from the previous century. So these are more the challenging than just asking if there are going to be some airship or not in 10 years. There will be, definitely.
Thank you, Sebastian. Derek, can I twitch the question a little bit for you? Where would you like to see airships in 10 years?
What I can say, I think that I'd love to see the technology, of which I know very little about, and the certification coming up to speed. But I'm seeing the perfect storm here, where from my side on the ground, there is a tourism market for this. We're already starting to see what we internally call slow travel, where people come in and instead of spending 2 days in each camp, they want to spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or 2 months actually with us. So I think that generally at the higher end of the market, people have a hunger for something different, something that is experiential, that's exclusive, that takes them on a storytelling journey. You provide the technology, and I think that there will be a market there.
All right. So would anybody else like to add any last intervention at this point before we wrap it up?
I just would like to say that, Sorry, I just
go
have
ahead.
to say that unfortunately I have to go, and I would like to thank very much Ocean Sky for organizing this show, and to say hello to my friend again on the floor. And next time I will be with you.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us,
Sorry.
Sebastian. Thank you.
Sorry.
Bye-bye. Can you pass it on to him? Thank you.
Well, I would just like to say something that explain a little bit about why we chose the North Pole. There's a beautiful history about the North Pole and the exploration of the white spots on the map. In the 1900s, there were some white spots on the map. The South Pole was reached. I don't say discovered because we knew it was there. It was reached by Amundsen in 1911. Just beat Scott and his expedition by a few days, the UK expedition. It was a lot of attempts reaching the North Pole, but nobody could really get there. They tried by boat, they tried by balloon, they tried by skis, and I'm talking in the early 1900s here. And even a few days before Norge, which was the airship that actually went to the North Pole, just a few days before, they tried to reach the North Pole with an airplane. And they failed. An airship went to the North Pole in 1926. And it was a company of Amundsen, which reached the South Pole in 1911. And Nobile, who was Italian airship designer, and as an American tycoon that actually paid for the whole trip, together with the Norwegian aerospace or aeronautic society, and that's why they named the airship Norge, which means Norway in Norwegian. So there's a beautiful story there. They couldn't land on the North Pole because they needed ground equipment and ground personnel. And another reason why we're going to the North Pole is because it's ground zero for climate change. Basically, what happens in the Arctic happens in the rest of the world subsequently. And the North Pole is also a very good from an operational perspective, because it's one huge landing site. It's basically perfect for airships, because airships needs spacious and open fields that are level. You can't get anything more level than a frozen sea surface. So I just wanted to tell that story, and hopefully, I mean, when we land on the North Pole, we will make history by landing there, because no airship has ever done that. And hopefully we will put a light on the technology, and that we can take further steps from there.
Thank you, Carl. Is it on? Yeah. So at this point, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank, first of all, the Swedish Pavilion for hosting us here, and the Swedish government for supporting this Swedish company initiative. I excuse my Swedish accent, but I really want to thank them. It means a lot to us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to gather all of you together here. It's been a great opportunity to be on this floor. I would also like to thank everybody who came from all over the place just to attend this conference. I would like to thank you very much, our guest speakers, Derek and Olivier as well. I would very especially like to thank everybody who is sitting somewhere else behind a computer, listening to us today. And I would very specially want to thank all of our clients and pioneers that we have in the room that have supported us and believed in us since day one, because without them, we wouldn't be here. And this is the most important part about the North Pole expedition. Without people that are actually brave enough to believe in our project, and by ours, I mean ours, not just Ocean Skies, because without you guys, we cannot do this. It is them that are going to make this possible. So I want to extend a very, very special thank you to our adventure clients and pioneer clients as well. All right? So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a little bit about airships and history. As you know, there is a cocktail for everybody who wants to join us on the rooftop right now. I think sunset is in about 15 minutes, so it's going to get all nice and romantic for girlfriends. It's not Venice, but please join us if you want.